So this time last week, Robb got on stage in front of a large audience to talk about the topic of how to get laid like Hugh Hefner. In this episode of the podcast, we go a little bit more in detail on his talk, delve a bit deeper on some of the points, and almost act as a trial run 24 hours before he steps on stage. We talk about how he felt in preparation for getting on stage and go through some really, really important topics, including what the statistics are on men's testosterone levels, how that's affecting their sex lives, how sleep affects their sex lives, and we discuss a little bit about his own sexual journey. We talk about Tim Ferriss's 15-minute orgasm, as well as covert contracts within a relationship. Really important for the people out there that are in committed relationships. We move on to chapter 2 of his talk when we talk about the right environment for sex. Is Hugh Hefner actually good in bed? The importance of being in shape when it comes to attracting a member of the opposite sex, but also sexual health. Before finalising on chapter 3, we talk about how do we value sex? How much do you want? And discuss a little bit about elite sex parties. This is a very interesting episode, a little bit outside the box, and from what I've heard, Robb absolutely nailed it on his talk, and we'll get all the feedback in this week's recording, but I'll leave you with myself and Robb McGeary. So we spoke about it for a couple of weeks now, but tomorrow's the big day. Your TED-style talk. How are you feeling?
Excited and nervous, but one of the things I've learned throughout my years is that those two things are the same emotion. So I must be excited. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Energy's high, energy's good. I've discovered I'm first on out of the 5 of us. So
how does that feel? Do you want to be first to get it out of the way, or do you want to try to get into the vibe of it?
Thinking about is going on first means I get it out of the way and I can chill. I'm thinking, right, first on means I have to make it memorable because there's 4 other guys and I could be forgotten by the end, which just makes me want to bring the thunder even more, you know? So I think it spurred me on a little bit. We'll see on the day. Who knows?
What's the opening? You've got like explosions, you're coming through some smoke, you get carried on by 2 Playboy bunnies. What's happening?
Purple robe, pipe, aviators, and a captain hat. I come on to...
But for reference, by the way, sorry to cut you off, I asked before coming on air, I was like, Robb, have you got like anything that may look a bit like Hugh Hefner for the show? He's like, but I've got a costume.
And I walk onto the tune of Let's Talk About Sex by Salt and Pepper. That's how I walk on.
Oh, yes. That is brilliant. I hope this goes so well that it gets on TED. Because TED is like, even though you talk about these topics, it's so formal, right? People come on in the shirt and tie, and then all of a sudden you be a memorable TED talk. I've never known anyone do that.
People I'm up against. I'm not up against. But there's a guy talking about habits. It's called habit hacking, his talk. Amazing. There's a guy talking about his property investments. This guy is an amazing graphic designer talking about creativity, that sort of thing. There's someone who did a 1,000-mile triathlon or something like that. Up against some inspirational, influential, amazing flipping guys. And there I am coming on and talking about cocks and Hugh Hefner.
What made you decide on this as a topic?
We were allowed to apply for it. So of the 100 to 150 guys who were involved, we were allowed to apply with your talk, what your ideas were going to be. And obviously it makes sense that I keep it in the realms of what I talk about with my clients, with my friends, online, social media. But there's about 50 PTs in this coaching group, right? So what can I do differently that other PTs aren't going to do? And a conversation I have very, very often with my male clients especially is libido, sex drive, testosterone. And in the point in my own online coaching group, I've put a men's room where I'm going to exclusively talk about those sort of things and go into a little bit more detail than Instagram would probably allow me to. So I thought, well, why don't I do that then? Why don't I talk about the sexual health and stamina and dating dynamics, similar to what we spoke about a couple of podcasts ago, and make that the talk, and then just add some stories in there from my own life, make it relative, try and make it funny. And it just so happened that he gave us the task of writing a headline. He just had to write a headline because we were voting for it. And he didn't want people to just vote for their mates. You wrote a headline of your presentation and there was no other details, who it was, what's involved, nothing. So I was like, right, okay, mine's about sex and about getting more sex and better sex. So how to get laid. And then what do I do? And I was just racking my brains with all these different things, all these different people. And I just thought Hugh Hefner sounds pretty cool. It had a nice ring to it. How to get laid like Hugh Hefner. Cool. History was made.
I mean, before we go on to it, I know that we're skipping a chapter because you've got it in 3 chapters, but as you mentioned the title about how to get laid like Hugh Hefner. Like, do you think Hugh Hefner got laid as much as he said he did? Because it's a bit of a persona. It's like we talked about Andrew Tate and Liver King a few podcasts ago. Is it if you peek behind the curtains,
so
it's life as it seems? As
I understand it, he was rumoured to have slept with over 1,000 women, which is a little bit soulless if you think about it. So it's too much of a number. But I disagree with this. Since his death, some of the Playboy models, including one I think he was married to, have come out saying that he apparently wasn't very good in bed. He was a bit of a minute man, a 2-pump chump. Took so much Viagra that he went deaf in one ear, and apparently couldn't finish during sex. He had porn on TVs in the bedroom, and he would finish himself off the porn. So we want to get laid like Hugh Hefner, but we want to be better than Hugh Hefner. But it's all about that. It's creating a more attractive persona where women will value having sex with you rather than you're trying to do stuff to get sex, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And obviously, you obviously mentioned you speak about this with your male clients quite a lot, and it's something that I see more and more and more, whether it's on podcasts or just in social media in general. And I know your chapter 1 is about men's sex life, testosterone levels, and you've got a few statistics. Tell me about what's happening with men's testosterone sex lives.
This is the frightening one. We are near enough going into a low testosterone pandemic, almost. And this has been going on for years. The average male testosterone level, now this study was taken from America because I'm sure it's relative to the UK as well. The average male testosterone level is declining by 1% every single year for the last 2 decades. So the average testosterone percent should be 20%, average testosterone level, should be 20% lower than it was 20 years ago, which is terrifying. And this is the reason why now, okay, yeah, you could say maybe technology's improved, but why have we got so many TRT companies now and blood test companies allowing you to check this stuff? Because there's a need for it. Guys are super, you don't even have to get your test checked to know if you've got it low. If it's low, you can see the low testosterone people out there, really, which is kind of horrific. It's terrifying for me, really.
When I was doing this, I brought this up earlier. I was actually having a look at these testosterone levels because it's a thing, but you don't actually pay attention to it. And for the people listening to this and might not see this on like YouTube, like I was just amazed of I knew it was declining, but how quickly it's declining. And this 2002, 2004, and this is before we saw like the rise of things like OnlyFans and social media and stress and the internet. Like in 2004, this was sort of just beginning. So I presume now, I mean, do you have any data where it is now? Like how it's changed since, like, this is an American case in
not so much compared to this. That's quite, I like that. That's quite detailed, very accurate and very terrifying picture that you're showing us. I hope people can see it. Maybe we'll have to start doing show notes, show the links. Man, that's terrifying. I don't have anything beyond that. I think the last study I was reading was the 2018 one, which is where this 1% every single year was coming from. It's a bit weird when you try to look up stuff like obesity stats and testosterone levels and things like that. There's never anything on the year because obviously they've got to do all the testing and then correlate the data. So it's always a couple of years old. But if the trend is going that low, it's not going to have reversed itself in 2 years, which is horrifying. And if you go.
Why do you think this is happening? Why is it so staggering?
And social and personal as well. Environmental, we've got less reason to push ourselves, less challenges, more stress, more environmental pollutants, all these reasons to stop your body making testosterone. In terms of social, there's more alcohol. There's, again, more stress. There's more pressure to be a calmer, less masculine man. In terms of your own personal environment, you're not sleeping, you're eating shit, you may be smoking, probably watching porn, stressing a hell of a lot. 3 things combined, it's just the environment is not giving your body a reason to make testosterone.
So after a little bit of technical difficulties, we're back on the air after a brief pause. Maybe it's the environment turning down your Wi-Fi's testosterone. But you were going into, we don't have the environment for testosterone. Tell us a little bit about some of the reasons why that is and what's going on.
So I think, that was a bit of an Illuminati switch off. We're trying to increase men's testosterone and make them more capable. The Illuminati went, no, we're not having that cut. I feel like tape. So there's so much research now on environmental pollutants, plastics, deodorants. I want to say it's the BPNAs or BNPAs. Whatever the molecule in there is linked to low testosterone, cancers, all sorts of crazy stuff. Even, and this one blew my mind. Now, I've been commando for the last 4 years. Not that anyone needs to know that, but I just did it because after some lockdowns, I didn't want to go back to wearing boxers and not living in shorts. The research behind polyester and testicular cancer is terrifying. The study, I'll have to get the link. I'll have to start coming on these with links so people don't think I'm just making this shit up. Polyester underwear. Now, obviously, a lot of people will be wearing cotton and other stuff, but polyester underwear has been linked to higher rates of testicular cancer through whatever chemical is in that polyester. I'm terrified because later on my Hugh Hefner robe is 100% polyester, but it's not going anywhere near my balls. So I don't know if the link is for the rest of the body or not. I'll send some of these links over. They'll be on my social media soon because I want to start talking about this a little bit more. There's so many things we don't even think about, just daily parts of our life that are actually affecting us hormonally, these endocrine disruptors, and now are even linked to cancers as well. Environmentally, it's almost like we've set up an environment that's meant to make us ill and weak now. It's crazy.
Mm. So, do you think it's worse in cities? Like places like, you're in London, I'm in Hong Kong. Do you think cities, there's more toxicity in a city, right? Do you think people are out in rural areas are getting less of this effect, or is this universal?
I think it's a bit of both. I'm sure everything would show cities is probably a lot higher because obviously you've got the pollution in the air, which Poliquin talked a hell of a lot about. Pollution in the air, the water shit, because it's all put through cheap filters. I think it was years ago they could study how much cocaine was being consumed in Canary Wharf just by the amount of cocaine residue in the water. It's put through cheap filters. This is why we're finding antidepressants in the water as well. You're drinking someone else's antidepressant dose because they've pissed it out. And the filter's taken the piss out. It hasn't taken the antidepressant out. So the amount of people technically on lithium without realising. So this all sounds so conspiratorial, but it's not. It's just incompetence. The filters are cheap because it's cheaper to do so. So the water's not great. We've got the pollution. We've got less nature, way less nature. We've got people angry at each other. We're all too close. We're all living in these tiny little boxes on top of each other's feet and getting annoyed by everyone. It hit me yesterday how reactive people are. This guy was just cycling and he cycled in front of this car. The car tooted its horn, just a toot. And this guy stops his bike and is screaming his head off, swearing. I'm like, this is not normal behaviour. When did this start? I don't remember seeing people like that, this aggressive as a kid. Where did this come from that we're all suddenly ready to rip each other's throats out? So confusing. And it's just the environment, not just in terms of the, not just air and molecules, and our social environment as well. Everything's now pushing us this really dark direction, I feel.
Mm. Because obviously the title of your talk is about Hugh Hefner, right? And obviously he's known for one of the the biggest porn producers in history. How does the impact of things like pornography affect people's testosterone?
How does pornography affect testosterone? So I think there was always the quit porn bros and the no fap guys love to really push the idea that porn drops your testosterone level, but it's not directly linked. Technically, after ejaculation, there is a brief spike in testosterone, and then it goes back down to normal levels. I want to say More Plates, More Dates guys did a very informative podcast on this. I want to say More Plates, More Dates. It goes back down to baseline. But obviously, if everything else in your life is causing lower testosterone, then your baseline is lower and lower and lower. And the issue with porn is it distorts your view of sex. You're not getting the dopamine and oxytocin release that you need from physical connection with another person. It's just pixels. So you're going to miss out there as well, which is going to lead you to be sadder, more depressed, more lonely, which is only going to push testosterone levels up. Down, because cortisol's going up. So that's the link, really. It's not a case of you're watching porn and testosterone being put, or you're just jerking off and testosterone being pushed down. Because it always goes back down to baseline. But if everything else in your life is set up for a super low baseline, what's the fucking benefits of watching porn apart from that shitty dopamine hit? Plastic dopamine. Huh?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a direct cause and effect, but the byproduct of over-consuming pornography is actually potentially leading to some of the symptoms that could be causing lower testosterone.
Yeah, because it's such a buzz phrase, isn't it? Stop watching porn because it's going to lower your testosterone. Well, it's not. People go, oh my God, it's ridiculous. It's not as simple as that. It's not as directly linked as that. You've got to look at your entire environment, both external and internal. That's the thing that's going to fix your testosterone level, not just whether you're watching porn or not.
Before we sort of go into some of the things that you can potentially do and sort of, turning back the clock on this a little bit, what is the diurnal nature of testosterone? Does that have an impact on whether it's the data, or does it have an impact on the stuff that we can do? Is there better times to do the stuff we're going to talk about in a second because testosterone is diurnal? I actually have another thing on this. For people that don't know, testosterone should be generally relatively higher up in the morning and then drops down throughout the day. So I remember last year I got my bloods done and my testosterone was through the floor. And I was like, what on earth's going on? And what I didn't think for whatever reason was that the only stop that a blood test could be taken in this place I was getting it done was at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So if you take 100 people's testosterone levels at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, you're probably going to get, 3/4 of them are going to have low testosterone readings because of the time of the day they take it. But this surely could affect data. Then this may also influence what we do about it, maybe?
I mean, yeah, totally. If you look at that time, what is that, 8 till midnight, it said it was at its lowest, yeah? And this means you need to be getting into bed and going to sleep when a large majority of your testosterone and your growth hormone and other hormones are released and secreted throughout your body. But people aren't doing that. They're staying up late, watching Netflix, scrolling through porn, getting angry, arguing on the internet, drinking alcohol, all these things that are just going to push that level lower and lower and lower. Sleep is affected. So you're going to start the next day with a lower start point. Like that graph was showing, that early morning's pretty high. Awesome. I want to start my day full of testosterone. I'm a man. I want to have an amazing, manly, masculine day. And if that ends,
and this is why when we're looking at people, when we're dieting people for our line of work, right? One of the signs that potentially you're pushing the diet too hard, and that's another factor potentially lowers testosterone is people dieting, and we can talk about that when it comes to the dad bod part. But if people guys stop losing morning wood. Yeah. And that's sometimes the signs that, okay, things aren't going well. This is something that should happen, but it actually doesn't happen as much as we think these days.
No, it's terrifying. And in terms of that morning wood, what's crazy as well, it's because again, that's normally like classed as the natural indicator. If you've got low testosterone, you're probably not getting a boner in the morning. Well, if you've got low testosterone, you've probably got no sex drive at all. But throughout the night, and I've not seen anything related to this, and I don't know who would do the study, but throughout the night, men on average have 3 to 5 erections lasting 15 to 25 minutes each. So you're actually erect for quite a lot of the night. If you've got low testosterone, is that still happening? I don't know. I've not read anything. And I can't be bothered to research that because it doesn't bother me. Like,
how much does it impact our lives, the nighttime erections we don't know about?
It might affect our missus lying next to us, but it won't affect us.
Stop prodding me.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But one of the things you mentioned in chapter 1, before we go on to what can guys do about this problem, you went, in chapter 1, you've got the headline, My Own Journey of Self-Development Related to Sex. What is your journey?
My journey was going from a previous old sexless relationship, which kind of inspired my entire self-development routine. I knew something was wrong and I knew something needed to be fixed. And the fix basically is making yourself overall a more attractive, desirable, capable man who, when you do get sex, it's not over within 3 to 5 minutes. So it was going from this sexless relationship to them finding relationships from like, oh my gosh, sex is actually, women do like sex. It's just a myth that eventually disappears. So how can I cultivate this environment that gets me more sex? Because who the hell doesn't want more sex? Everyone wants more. And when we're not getting it, this is why we turn to porn, excessive video gaming, alcohol, even paying for hookers, because that's why prostitutes exist, because we want sex, and some people are just willing to pay for it, which I've never done. And the fact I have to defend that makes it sound like I've done it, but I've really never done it.
I went out like last night, as I was saying before I came on air, so in for a bar in Wan Chai, which is quite a seedy place here in Hong Kong. It's a place called Joe Bananas, and I was quite amazed by the amount of working girls in there.
Oh wow!
And you start to think like, these bars are going to exist, but I don't think there was any women in there that weren't, and it makes you think like how stressed and how full on this city is, and how condensed and cramped that it's got such a demand.
Supply and demand, man. Simple supply and demand model. If they're there, it's because there's work for them there. You know, it's kind of sad when you think about it. It's kind of sad. And then it just all coincided with me getting in shape, and then figuring out, right, okay, I'm looking good, I'm feeling pretty good, but how can I improve my mental health, my relationships, my sex life, my business? It's all connected, man. It's all connected. If one area of life suffering, it's so easy for other areas to then suffer based on it as well. If you try and cover all your bases, everything can improve, really. One thing's going to feed into another. If you're getting more sex, you're going to be happier. If you're getting more sex because you know you're more attractive, you're going to do what it takes to be more attractive. You've got more energy, therefore that's going to carry over to your business, to your social side. It all goes hand in hand. It all knocks on.
What are covert contracts?
Covert contracts are phenomenal, paradigm shifting thing for me in terms of not just how I operate in the relationship world, but through colleagues, clients, friends, acquaintances, and just general strangers as well. Covert contract is something I read about in a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. Phenomenal book. These covert contracts are silent agreements you've made in your own head between you and another person. So it's what you expect others to do for you based on what you've done for them first, or what you're hoping for within the structure of a traditional relationship. And you never explicitly state what you want because you're assuming they'll just know. And this doesn't work. We're not mind readers. Everyone's wrapped up in their own world. Everyone's doing the best with what they've got. So they're not necessarily thinking about other people's needs. And in terms of sex, it's not transactional. The more and more you do in terms of being a nice guy and a good boyfriend and cleaning up and providing doesn't necessarily automatically mean you get sex back. Because again, if that was the case, Bill Gates would be getting more sex than Hugh Hefner. And we know he's not. Other things have to come into play. What type of guy are you? Are you actually attractive? Are you healthy? There's the caveman DNA still in us. Are we attracted to people that are likely to good offspring? All this stuff goes hand in hand together. But what we're so guilty of is going, right, I'm going to be the nice guy. I'm going to do this because then I'm going to get sex back. I don't think that ever works, and people don't realise that. And we get angry.
I suppose it's one of those things that people do without thinking about. How does someone go about changing their way of thinking?
By stating what you want, by having conversations. It can be as simple as a neighbour comes and borrows something from you, and you're expecting it back within a week, but a month later they've still got it, and you're angry and annoyed that they've still got it, but you never stated when you wanted it back. But still, rather than saying, by the way, I need this back, is that okay? Do you still need it? We just get angry and bitter and frustrated and never flag anything up. We're so quick to just sit in this shell of resentment and bitterness and let the problem escalate rather than having the difficult conversation. It goes back to so many things we've spoke about over our previous episodes. Sometimes it takes the difficult conversation, but people aren't willing to do that. If you're not willing to do that, and how can you get what you want?
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. You mentioned there a little bit about, quite a few times, about being a better person. You mentioned getting in shape is part of your journey. What shape should guys be looking at? Because we as personal trainers, right, the day you go in the gym for the first time is the day you're forever small. What we think is lean, you hear it all the time. People go, oh, that person's got a great body in X movie. Yeah. And I bet you're the same. You look at this and go, nah, it's rubbish. Below rate standard. Yeah. And what is the aim here? Let's talk of one of the things you've got is dad bod or chad bod. So run me through that.
So we don't have to be the Giga Chad. We don't have to be Arnie, although you can look at old video footage of Arnie and women swooning over him, but it's not just the muscles, personality, persona, power, all sorts. We need to be in the best shape we personally can. But that doesn't mean thick skin lean, because that's going to come with its own issues. But I think anyone over 20% body fat, you're going to struggle. You're making yourself less attractive because of this caveman DNA, wanting to breed with someone who's going to produce good offspring and protect and provide for us. And over 20.
And why does that produce good offspring?
Why would
they say like being under 20% body fat should be a sign that you produce good
because you're
offspring?
likely to see more of that muscle mass. You've probably got a more favoured testosterone estrogen balance. And if the testosterone's higher, you're going to be more confident, more of a provider, more protective as well, more capable. And subconsciously, this is what they're seeing. They're not going to see that with an obese man. Okay, 20% is far from obese. But depending how your body fat sits on you, you might look a hell of a lot more obese just above 20% than someone else may do at 30. Either way, you're just affecting your hormonal health, your mental health as well, and your chances of finding the type of woman or getting the amount of sex that you want. So it's not a case of being Giga Chad and Mr. Bodybuilder. It's not a case of being thick skin lean all year round, which you're going to suffer with. But when there's always the argument of, do women prefer the dad bod? And they'll always say this publicly because they don't want to hurt people's feelings and they don't want to be perceived a certain way. But when you look at the statistics when they're anonymously surveyed, we get a more clearer picture. And I've got some of them here. That these are the actual body parts. This was from GQ. These are the actual body parts in order that a woman find most attractive on a man. So they might say they prefer the dad bod. I like you having a bit of a belly on you. I like that you haven't got pecs. I like that it doesn't look like you live in the gym, even though no one lives in the gym. 24% of the women that were surveyed, it was like 1,000 women, 24% were attracted to a guy's well-toned arms. It's not the characteristics of a dad bod. Next up was broad shoulders and a sexy back, whatever a sexy back means. Not the characteristics of a dad bod. V-cut and abs, definitely not the characteristics of a dad bod. Now, I added all these statistics up, and out of the 1,000 women, those 5 body parts alone came to 85% of the total survey. So even if some women sat down and said, yeah, I prefer the dad bod, it still pales in comparison to the rest of those body parts. So that's what they're looking for. But no one there is necessarily saying be shredded, be huge, 3D delts or anything like that, striations, well-toned arms. Just looks like you can lift something. Broad shoulders, sexy back, whatever sexy back means. Out of the realms of JT.
Ask Timberlake, yeah.
Timberlake, yeah.
But do you think when girls say they prefer the dad bod, do you think there's an element in this that they don't want somebody to be in better shape than them? They're looking out for themselves subconsciously there, rather than necessarily that they don't. They actually prefer it.
There is that as well. Female hypergamy is a real thing. Mate guarding is a real thing. The first person that's going to try and sabotage someone's fat loss efforts is someone who's jealous. And that's either going to be a very close mate or your significant other. And they're not necessarily sitting there going, oh my God, I better, put excess coconut oil into their coffee and they'll never realise or anything like that. It's a subconscious thing. Again, there's a bit of that covert contract stuff going on as well. When ideally, the ideal scenario would be you start getting in shape and that inspires your significant other. But maybe you have a conversation about that as well. Maybe you have a conversation. It can be as simple as just trying to make it more of a family or a couples type thing. I'm not saying you go to the gym and train together. I think that's a horrific idea. But it's just, cooking meals together, healthier meals together, getting up and being active at the weekend, going to sleep at the right time, talking rather than being sat on a date and you're both on the phone, scrolling through social media, which is so much. That really makes me want to grab their phones and just be like, ugh. But I can't yet. Maybe in the metaverse I'll do that.
When you say mate guarding, is mate guarding in reference to somebody not wanting somebody in better shape in case they potentially leave them? Is it them fueling their own insecurity?
Because it potentially gives them more options, in which case the chance of them leaving, cheating, having a baby with someone else now potentially increased. And it's a self-esteem thing as well. It's the reason you're getting jealous of them getting into fixing themselves is because you're not doing the same. It's highlighting your inadequacies, which would happen in the realms of a friend, a colleague, someone else you might try to sabotage you. But in the realms of a relationship, that's why it's mate guarding, because you're thinking, oh my God, they're going to leave me because they're looking like this now and I still look like this. It's just a self-esteem thing more than the issue of you actually getting in shape.
What can someone do about that though? Because I assume the easy answer is communication, but you're tapping into someone's insecurities, which could actually end up having a counter effect, right? If you're probing someone's discomfort, they're going to go into a bit of a fight or flight. So what can someone do if their partner or their closest friend is the person sabotaging them become a better person of themselves, especially if they're doing it to improve the relationship with the partner?
You have a conversation. You have conversations. You talk about your reasons for getting in shape, the reasons why you go to the gym, why you've started eating this way, why you value having this slimmer body, V-taper and broader shoulders and things like that, what it means to you and how you feel it can benefit the overall relationship as well. We're not having conversations. That's what most of this comes down to. We're not having conversations. Just expect the other person to know. And that's what these contracts are all about. It keeps coming back to that.
What do you think of like standards in terms of, because we're looking at both genders here, right? Mainly here we're talking about blokes because testosterone is more prevalent in blokes. But when it comes to beauty standards, it works both ways. Is setting an example of being in really, really good shape, going for the Chad bod, actually potentially could make things harmful? And in turn, the body, beautiful at every size argument could inspire people to be lazy. I'm going to share my screen one more time here. And it's just, there's something that, I saw it a while ago that shows how the standards have changed. I'd like to get what you think about this. And look at the difference. And we talk about like demand, supply and demand, right? We can say people want the dad bod all they like, but doesn't this show you that that is not what people want? Because otherwise dad bods would be selling this underwear brand.
Exactly. Why on the cover of Men's Health do we never see a dad bod? Because we know that essentially the higher body fat levels are not healthy. And we had that we talked about this ages ago, that cover of Cosmo that had that obese model on it. I can't remember her name to save my life, but she's gone through some really dark stuff since that. And you go into Nike Town, around the corner from me, there's obese mannequins on the women's floor. I don't see them on the men's floor. There's obese mannequins on the women's floor. So what is causing this? Why do we want... Who is it? What is it? Media? Is it organisations? Is it corporations? Whatever it is, who's pushing this idea for women more, the healthy at any size thing, rather than maybe it is men. Maybe it is men pushing this because they know if their wife suddenly gets in shape, she might want to go somewhere else, or she's going to get more attention from other guys, and we can't handle jealousy and rejection. I don't know where it's coming from, but I don't like it. I really don't like it because in terms of attractiveness, unfortunately, the beauty standards have never changed in terms of what people are actually attracted to, rather than what we say you should be attracted to. So frustrating, man.
Yeah, because I look at that sort of post, and it almost, we've said this before with the person on the cover of GQ, and we're like, it inspires women to get lazier in a way. Like if you're generally, I generally believe if you're bigger and you're happy, generally are happy, then all power to you. Like it's not my place at any point to tell you how you should look, what you should do, and how you should live your life. But the people that are pushing for these adverts, the people that are virtue signaling, the people that are complaining about the Beachbody Ready adverts on the tube a number of years ago, aren't the people that are generally happy. Because the people that are bigger and happier probably just walk past those adverts and don't even care because they don't even like a gym ad anyway. It doesn't mean anything to them.
Exactly.
But they're also probably the ones that would prefer their blokes to look a certain way at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting, you'll notice it on the dating apps as well, that people who are in that demographic of being largely overweight, if not obese, maybe lesser down on the options, are also the type of people that are putting more prerequisites in their dating profile. You must be like this, look like this. I expect a man to do this. Can't really... There is, as much as people would like to say there's not, there is a sexual market value. There is a sexual marketplace. Without trying to get too red pill here, there is. You have a value placed upon you based on how you look, how you talk, how you act, what you can do, how you can provide. It just exists. Unfortunately, you can't. It's human nature. The lower you are down that value, the less you can make these demands on other people, really.
So obviously a lot of this is about someone getting themselves in shape, someone improving their business, making more money. These are the obvious things that improve value. But to stay in the realms of this podcast, because we've got lots of them where we talk about health and fitness on this show, How does someone improve their sexual stamina?
So here we go. These are great. So one, let's stop jerking off like a little kid, and let's stop watching porn, because it makes you a weaker, less attractive, needier guy and distorts your view of what sex is. Forget anything else about porn jerking off. Let's just do it for those reasons. In terms of your sexual health, I'm not talking about STDs. I mean, in terms of your body producing testosterone and having a libido, a sex drive, take a look at how you're currently sitting. If your legs are crossed, uncross them. If your knees are closer together than shoulder width, spread them. That's man spread. Because the health of your testicles, which is related to your sperm production and your testosterone, is based on being a certain temperature. I think it's 31 to 32 degrees, I think. And your body...
What about having your phone in your pocket?
And
what about having your phone in your pocket?
It gives heat off. Polyester underwear. All these things are directly related to that area. So if you are crushing your balls and keeping them the same temperature, you're cooking them. This is why in the summer they hang low down by your knees, and in the winter they're up in your stomach. Your body self-regulates that temperature based on its external environment first. And we're sitting here crushing them, holding them in one place, and they're getting cooked. So no wonder sperm count's gone down through the floor. I think the fertility rate is even more terrifying than the testosterone rate. But I haven't got a graph to correlate that. I should start doing this, because people are going to go, hey, this ain't stuff. But I should start coming with these links. So we need to stop cooking your balls, because with no testosterone, you're not going to be very aroused. You're not going to have much of a sex drive. But the testosterone is not directly linked to the strength, stamina, and stiffness of your erection. And the only reason I'm doing my forearm is because that's what I do in my talk. That's my reason.
Well, you're not doing the real thing on this show. I'll tell you that. If you ever monetised on YouTube, that'll be ruined right there.
We'll move to Rumble with all the other appeal. So in terms of how do we get stronger down there, how do we last longer, it's blood flow. This is a reason people take Viagra, Cialis, sildenafil. It dilates blood vessels. More blood rushes through that area, in which case we're going to have a longer lasting, stronger, stiffer erection. But we can increase blood flow more naturally without the side effects that these pills will give you, because they will give you side effects. They dilate blood vessels. They don't, discriminate where they dilate them. Why people can get hearing issues, eye issues from taking slightly higher of a dose or too regular of a dose. So you can increase your blood flow through the lifestyle factors: movement, exercise, cardiovascular health, sleeping right, minimizing your stress. That will help increase your blood flow. I don't really talk about this in the talk because I've only got 15 minutes. I can say these now. I was going to put a list of supplements in there. The only supplements I would recommend, proven for increased blood flow, that will help you down there, is L-arginine and L-citrulline. They help produce more nitric oxide throughout your body. They are directly linked to increased blood flow down there. Other things such as Tribulus terrestris and horny goatweed, the majority of those studies were done on rats and not so much on humans, which makes me go, okay, I won't jump on those because it's not as proven. Omega-3 is going to clear inflammation throughout your entire body. If it's high in EPA, clears inflammation out, so we've got more blood flow and less hurdles in the way going to that area. And the last supplement I recommend is a vitamin D, because a vitamin D is going to make you calmer. It's going to affect your mood. You can be less of a miserable, angry prick, and someone else is going to want sex with more. So increased blood flow, higher testosterone, or more natural testosterone level. And the last one is breathing. Don't breathe during sex. As soon as they start having it, they think, I don't know, whether it's shock that they're getting it, or they don't know what to do, or they're trying not to come too quick. So they hold their breath. All the blood and the oxygen goes up here and away from down here. Because you've only got a finite amount of blood in your system, and it goes to where it's needed. You don't suddenly produce more blood to go, right, okay, he's holding his breath here, let's put all this up here, but save something down there. It's going to go one way or the other. And if you directed it all up here, what the hell's going to happen? So breathe. Flipping breathe. Guys are so quick to download all these sex manuals. It must be a position thing. It must be this and that. Bruv, you're holding your breath for 2 minutes straight. The blood and the oxygen has gone from there because your heart has recognised there's nothing up here. So it sent it all that direction. And this is why you've gone floppy. It's crazy, man.
Is there a point to be made then just about men being more present during sex? Because a lot of the stuff about going longer is this think of something else, think of something you're not attracted to, this kind of thing to make you last longer. But is that actually a counterintuitive point? Because now you're not being present during sex, which then gets these issues with blood flow.
I think the biggest issue is, I'm trying to think of who I learned this from. I can't. The biggest thing is not making it outcome based. We're so quick to go, right, I'm having sex. I've got to make sure she comes, and then I've got to come after. Just enjoy the process. Why is it got to be that outcome? Would it be the worst thing in the world if you had sex for several hours and didn't come at the end of it? Probably not. Because the act of having sex right there is pretty goddamn cool. It's pretty much enjoyable. I think you'd rather do that. So we can't put these outcomes on there, because then there's pressure. And then when there's pressure, you're not in the present moment. You're in your head. And that's where the cortisol...
Not just on yourself, but with your partner as well, I presume, right? Because if I've known plenty of partners who, if one person or the other person doesn't, that they think they've done something wrong or think it's a reflection on them. And it's like, well, it could be so many factors that we've spoken about here in terms of blood flow, stress, sleep, all sorts of things that impact that you have no control over. And especially with women, where so many women don't ever during penetrative sex, right?
I've spoken to a lot of women that would honestly say they've never had one, and that could be related to what the guy's done. It could be related to all, right? But there could be emotional issues in there that are making that not happen. And so what's a guy going to do? He's going to start for 2 minutes and think, oh my God, she hasn't come yet. What do? I will change position, because that's what they do in porn. And then I'll do this. And then I'll aggressively do this. It takes the average man, 3 to 5 minutes to orgasm during sex. It takes the average woman 13 minutes. So there's a mismatch of time in there anyway. So if you're not doing the prerequisite stuff of getting her aroused, getting her in the right environment, how the hell would she come anyway? And if you're doing all these weird things because there's so much pressure on you to perform, because you watch some geezer online tell you that you need to do 22 positions or whatever, suddenly it becomes outcome based.
What is the right sexual environment?
Well, internal environment we've already discussed. External doesn't mean you have to have a Playboy mansion. You don't need a fire pit. You don't need a button that you press. Girls come out with lube and toys and blindfolds and things like that on. Don't need porn on the telly. Get the TV out of your bedroom, man. But in terms of external environment, let's at least make sure if you've booked a hotel, it's a nice hotel. If you are trying to get more sex and you're married with kids, maybe get the kids babysat a bit more often to allow for that environment. So you're not worried about waking people up or the kids walking in. Maybe you've got the house clean, and you've not come home from work tired and miserable and moaning, and she's not doing the same as well. But also thinking, okay, so we spoke about it several times, that the bedroom really should just be for sleep and for sex. That's all it should be for. But it doesn't mean sex has to be limited to your bedroom as well. Bit of spontaneity in there. Letting your wife or your missus or whoever know that you are a horny, testosterone-fueled beast that's ready to ravage her in any room in the house, at any moment, any time. Keeps her on her toes, keeps some more excitement in there, makes you more playful, makes you more fun to be around. That's the environment she's going to want sex in. Not you having a long, hard day, going upstairs to bed, jumping in and, what's that? I forget what they call it. The spooning position, you're just grinding your cock up against her, expecting her to get turned on.
But you mentioned a really interesting point there about environment, that it's not just about either the mental or the physical environment, but just making your partner generally, even outside of even thinking about sex, feel attractive. That playfulness and that ability to kind of make them feel attractive is going to have a better. It's not doing stuff like we were saying earlier on. It's not a covert contract. It's just generally treating her like she deserves to be treated. It's going to in turn create a better environment for this.
Yeah. The sexual environment is 24 hours long. It's 24/7. And that includes how you talk to her through your texts. Are you moaning all the time at work? Are you angry? Are you stressed? Are you miserable to be around? It's not a very attractive quality. Those aren't attractive traits. Are you even being flirty and sexual like you probably were in the early stages of the relationship? And have you let that slip? It's time to start drip feeding some of these things back in as well. And I'm not a relationship guru. I'm really, really not. And I'm not even trying to be. And I'm certainly not going to try and become one either. But I have done so much research, spent so many times in dark, dark forums, listening to guys, what they're moaning about, and how many people aren't willing to fix the issue. And I wanted to fix the issue. So I went down the research route and then started putting things into action. And now I kind of know what works and kind of know what doesn't work. And what doesn't work is just assuming the problem's going to be solved, or thinking, right, the problem can't be solved, fuck it, I'll go somewhere else. And then you're in a world of hurt and you're on your own and you've still got the same issues because you were this miserable, irritable, low testosterone, overweight prick. And now you're trying to put that into a new relationship. You shot yourself in the foot there, bruv.
With the environment, we mentioned the discrepancy of guys being 3 to 5 minutes and girls being around 13. Does that mean foreplay is incredibly important and something we should all prioritize?
So it's two things. Either foreplay is more important or you get better at your stamina. Same way you would get better in the gym and at cardio, at running, you work on your stamina. So obviously, yes, foreplay would therefore be or have more importance placed upon it to match those 13 minutes. But again, that's making it outcome based. And again, some women will orgasm through foreplay and some will orgasm through penetrative sex, in which case you can't just do 13 minutes of foreplay and expect everything to be great, or 1 minute and expect everything to be great. Is again, take that 13 minutes out of your head and just realize it's not an outcome-based short game.
And being present, I suppose, right? Like we spoke about being present in the bedroom.
Yeah.
You know if you need 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes of foreplay by just being there and taking note and seeing what's going on and going with the flow.
Taking note. I mean, it doesn't mean you literally take notes. There will be a guy somewhere that goes, right, notepad to bed. But how many women will say probably one of their biggest frustrations in bed is they're about to come and the geezer stops and does something else entirely rather than carrying on with what he's doing. And it's because we're so then focused on ourselves at that moment of either, I don't want to come yet, so I need to do something different. What's the problem? What's the big problem? If you've worked on your sexual health and your sexual stamina, 5 minutes, you should be ready to go again. Doesn't mean the game's over. Doesn't mean the night's over. You should be able to go again. And if you can't, that's a giant red flag waving. Giant.
Mm. So a couple of closing questions, because I know you've got to head off to do your talk on stage in your costume. I have read nearly everything that Tim Ferriss has written, but when you put Tim Ferriss's 50-minute orgasm, I wasn't sure what this was.
So
enlighten me.
This came from, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this came from the 4-Hour Body book.
Yes, I do remember this now.
It was called Orgasmic Meditation, and this was the name of the company that was promoting it as well. And before you guys all rush out there to try and figure out what this is, the company's had some very sketchy practices and claims against it recently. Who knew? So 15-minute orgasm was this technique where you erotically massage the woman a certain way in a certain area. That will not give her a 15-minute long orgasm, but will give her multiple waves of orgasmic pleasure over a 15-minute period that will lead her into this meditative state. And apparently it can help release emotions, trauma, things like that. But as I say in my talk, it's basically fingering. That's all you're doing. It's like the 1:30/2 o'clock position of the clitoris, and you do it in the most gentle, consistent way for 15 minutes. You've got to set a timer, and there's nothing sexier than setting a timer, right? And I'm not being funny, but I tried it with my ex of many moons ago. After 2 minutes, I'm bored. I'm so bored because you're not really doing anything. Okay, you can look at her and it's all good, but you are kind of more focused. It's very difficult to not be outcome-based there because you're focused on doing everything just right because it's just for her. But if you're expecting anything afterwards, that's a bit of a covert contract. So I get why it exists, and I can see how it would fit into someone's life, but I'm sure there's better meditative techniques, better sex, and better therapy you could go through than this 15-minute orgasm bollocks. I'd be amazed if Tim Ferriss still does that. Be amazed.
It's interesting, though. I kind of want to go back and read that book and just actually see what this is all about and learn this technique.
When I re-Googled it, just to double check I'm getting it right for my talk, and that's when I found all these articles about the company that promotes it and the people they've had working for them that are kind of forced to have people do it on them and stuff like that. It's kind of sketchy. But, yeah, man, have a reread. It's quite funny.
So one of the things in chapter 3 of your notes that intrigued me, and I'm actually going to tell you a story first about this. There's a reason why we want to bring this up. So I had a client who has been working with me for a while. I won't mention his name for this reason. And he wanted to get in shape for what we regularly do here in Hong Kong is a junk boat party. So like a party boat sort of thing. So we had his junk. I was like, hey, did you get any photos of you looking shredded on your junk? Because they're like marketing gold, right? And he goes, it's a shame. I would have loved to have got some, but it was kind of a kinky junk. And I went, oh, what? And he's joined the Hong Kong bondage and kinky club. And it was a nude junk. I don't know where you would do these. It probably isn't around by Deepwater Bay with all the others.
Wow.
And yeah, loads of nudity. So what have you written about? What's in your talk about elite invite-only sex parties?
So I was trying to figure out where in my life I want sex to fit. How do I value it? Do I want to be like post-divorce? Am I going to be the type of guy that now hates all women, never want to touch his another one? Or did I want to be Chad Thundercock and sleep with 1,000 women? I didn't want to be either, but I wanted to figure out how I value it. So I place less importance on it, place it on less of a pedestal, and enjoy it more. And so I've read a lot of books, watched a lot of videos, podcasts, all sorts. Started immersing myself into this world of sex coaches and stuff like that. And I kept coming back to these sex parties. Now, one of my favourite films is Eyes Wide Shut. And it's not just because Nicole Kidman gets her boobies out. I think it's a phenomenal film. It's some of Kubrick's finest cinematography. I love that film. And I always wondered about this. Do these secret societies meet up? And I've heard about Killing Kittens, the sex party company, and I'd wondered if there were more. And I came across apparently.
For those who aren't familiar with Killing Kittens, it has nothing to do with actually killing kittens before anyone reports us.
With actually killing kittens. There's no animal cruelty whatsoever.
But it's the women are in charge, right? So everyone's wearing masks, and the women will be in charge of the night.
Women will be the kittens will be in charge. And now a kitten is classed as anyone that isn't a male. Oh my God, it's terrible. This is why I won't go with Killing Kittens, because they've changed the rules. But there are other companies. There are other companies that do this. And I was with one called Heaven Circle, whose advertising was very much along the lines of Eyes Wide Shut. And that kind of made me think that's the company I want to go for. So I ended up going to their singles night, which was not, I hope I'm not calling the company out. I'm not, because I'm not going to say anything bad. And they're open on their social media. I think I'm all right. I went to their singles night, which did not require a mask or dressing up in suits and costumes and things like that. You just had to, sexy, casual, be smart, and that's it. And okay, I won't, obviously I'm now thinking, no one will get in trouble because I don't know anyone's names. I don't know anyone. I'm not probably touched anyone. But whilst I was there, it really opened my eyes too that there is this, it's not a subsect of society that are all deviants and just want to bang each other. There's so many different ways people value sex. Some people want it on a more regular basis in a more freer way with more varied partners, and that's fine, zero judgment. Some people just want it more than once a year on their anniversary. And there's a long, long spectrum of what people are actually happy with. And I found myself at this party a little bit out of my depth, nervous as hell, the leanest geezer there, but nervous as hell. And just kind of exploring this world of what do I want? Do I want to sleep with multiple women in one night at this party? Am I happy to just get one? How do I feel about people looking at me? And obviously, you go down that route, you're going into the kinkier world of multiple people. There was a butler, and he had a bondage show going on, and that's not for everyone, even though more people are into it than they're inclined to admit. So obviously, that was the kinkier side of things, and I realised that I'm not that kinky. Like, that's not for me. I couldn't have attended those on a regular basis. I'm not really into just one night stand here, there, everywhere. I like connection. I like building a relationship. I like exploring the same person over again. And if it turns into a relationship, cool. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But without exploring the spectrum, I don't think you ever really know where you fit. You're just going to look at what other people are doing and assume. It's the same as money. How much money is actually going to make you happy? Is it just enough to pay the bills and keep you out of poverty? Or is genuinely having millions going to make you happy? Probably neither one of those things. So it's got to be somewhere in the middle. And you don't know unless you aim for it, or at least you try and experience it.
With that sort of thing, in terms of people having different values from sex, and some people just wanting it more than once on their anniversary, and some people want to have multiple different partners and don't believe in monogamy. Surely, where someone's sexual value, especially in a world of relationships, especially in the West, right, where someone's sexual value lies and where they actually live, not physically live, but their sexual value lives, has to be a little bit different. There's got to be an element of compromise and sacrifice, I presume, because I had someone once explained to me about a friend of mine that wasn't into monogamy, and he explained it's like, I love the UK. It's my home. It's my favorite place in the world. But it doesn't mean I don't love Spain, and I don't love New Zealand, and I don't love Australia. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to come back and spend the rest of my life in the UK, but I want to travel and see the world. But on the flip side, and what interesting, someone's replied to this, and it changed my way of thinking a bit about it, and where there's a middle ground here about compromise, is that yes, but it's like doing all that traveling and then the UK not giving you a visa back in.
That's why, I like it. It's very poetic and profound. Cop out as well, man. You just want to sleep around. It's fine. Yeah, that would work if, in the analogy, if he was happy to visit Spain because he loves Spain and visit wherever. But obviously the UK is not his wife. Let's put that distinction in there. That would be fine. Of course it would be fine. And some people, polyamory works. Some people, monogamy works. As a society, I don't know the answer. Because before, many moons ago, we would have been polyamorous. And now we're monogamous. And some people think forced monogamy is the way forward to rebalance this sexual inequality that's going on. I don't know. I don't know the answer. It's way deeper than my brain answer, the solution.
So how much should somebody be willing to compromise where their sexual value lies to be in a healthy relationship?
Well, you never compromise on your standards. That's the thing. Never compromise on. And this is where external environment has to come into key. If you're living in a town and there's not a single attractive woman in that town that you find attractive, well then, maybe you need to actually question what you do find attractive, not what media might have programmed you to believe is attractive. Maybe you got to fucking move. Maybe you got to move town and find somewhere else, which can only help you grow as an individual as well, especially if it's moving across seas. You never compromise on your standards of what you want for yourself, but you have to know what your standards and your values are. So they're not being programmed by other people and by media. And people are not doing that.
So just to finish off, so you can go and put on your outfit and head on the train, which, by the way, I really hope you're wearing your outfit on the train to Liverpool. And we're still going to do very soon this Halloween themed fancy dress episode for something. But just to finish off, what is Hugh Hefner's most profound quote?
This was beautiful. Trying to find some way to wrap up the quote and to wrap up the talk, and this got sent to me. I thought it was perfect. It sums everything up, I think. So he said, "You've got to ask yourself: are you living out your own fantasies, or are you perfectly content to sit and watch other people?" No, that's the quote. That's the quote on my slide. I've changed it. I butchered it. It was, "You got to ask yourself: are you living out your own fantasy?" I'm reading the wrong bit. It's right above it. Come on, Rob. I only have one coffee. This is it. The interesting thing is how one guy, through living out his own fantasies, is living out the fantasies of so many other people. So let me get this again, just because I butchered that last bit. The interesting thing is how one guy, through living out his own fantasies, is living out the fantasies of so many other people. So the bit I was reading there at first was actually my closing line. So you've got to ask yourself, are you living out your own fantasies, or are you perfectly content to sit and watch other people live yours?
I love that. And there's not only a bang closing line to your talk, but also to this. So for people who want to hear your talk, is it going to be posted anywhere? Can people watch it in any format, clips or the full thing?
So at the very least, I know it's going to be filmed, and I'm going to get edited clips, reels, shorts that I can use. Hopefully, I will get a full recording of the entire thing. If I don't, then I'm going to refilm it myself as like, not a webinar, but like an online presentation type thing, but maybe go on for a bit longer than 15 minutes. So there will be footage from this plastered across my Fastlane page. I'll probably put it on my personal one as well, because I know there's people I want to see it that aren't following my Fastlane, and that's fine. So it is going to be online for people to see. I'm then going to start not completely changing my route, but I am going to start talking about men's health and sexual dynamics a little bit more, because, it's a goal. It's something people want more of. And if you focus on becoming a more attractive, leaner, more capable, calmer, higher testosterone man, which you do through lifestyle factors and eating and dieting, fat loss and training, then it's win-win. You increase your chances. I think I finally found my niche.
So to get that, people tune into the Fast Loss Fastlane Instagram page mainly?
Fat Loss Fastlane. Rob Core, if you're already following me, it's going to be plastered all over there as well anyway. yeah, fat loss fast lane is where I'm going to push the deeper explanations behind every point, I think.
Awesome, mate. Absolutely best of luck tomorrow. I'm genuinely rooting for you, and this is an awesome opportunity. So very jealous, and yeah, mate, enjoy it. Like a night between the sheets. Be present. Don't think of somewhere else.
Breathe,
and don't breathe, and don't picture the audience naked because you might get arrested.
Very true.
Mate, best of luck, man. Have a good one.
Really good one.